Chapter 8. HQ equals Q and A. Ace headquarters, abandoned subway, Cincinnati. Jameson clumsily follows two people down a long and large dark tunnel. He had been met at the airport by a young man, tall and dark-skinned, with a short, well-kept afro and wearing gold-framed sunglasses, who accompanied him to the airport parking lot, where a young woman with John Lennon spectacles and long hair, dark like black coffee in contrast to her pale complexion, was awaiting their return in an unassuming titanium silver Honda Accord. After a half-hour drive of relative silence, the woman had pulled the car onto an unused, dilapidated rail track and proceeded to park around 100 feet inside the entrance to the tunnel, next to a beat-up 1970s Chevrolet. The man and woman both have torches and shine their lights in front of them as they make their way through the tunnel. Jameson stumbles over a piece of track. He gently collides into the woman.
Careful, Archer.
She complains.
Why didn't you bring your torch?
She hadn't spoken much on the journey in the car, but Jameson reckons it was she who had spoken to him on the phone.
Sorry, I must have left it back at my apartment,
Jameson says, thinking fast.
My head is a bit fuzzy today. I was drinking pretty hard last night.
You know how he feels about drugs and alcohol?
The woman says, with anger in her voice that Jameson can't understand.
We have to be ready to go when the orders drop. That means a clear mind, able to drive and function as an operative.
Jameson bites his bottom lip.
You're right, of course. It was just a one-off. I felt a bit depressed, so I thought I would cheer myself up with a few drinks.
A few drinks? A few drinks is all it takes to render you useless. Dangerous, even. I'm concerned that your hangover will impair your judgment.
It was a bad call. Look, it won't happen again,
Jameson says, rolling his eyes in the darkness, clearly regretting this particular lie.
You said you felt depressed?
The man in front asks, helping Jameson to dig his hole a little deeper.
You are not having regrets about joining us, are you? Second thoughts. You are about to meet the main man.
The main man?
You know who we're talking about.
The main man, of course,
Jameson says, trying to sound sure. He sees an opportunity.
Listen, about that, I've been wondering what to call him, when I meet him. Is it Sir or...
Just call him by his name.
Jameson grimaces.
His name. Understood.
You did not answer my question. Second thoughts?
No, if anything, I'm more eager than ever. Joining this organization has been good for me. Last night, I was just lonely, missing some company from that special someone kind of thing.
Ah, well, I know that feeling. It has been a while for me too. But you know how he feels about relationships.
Jameson screws up his face and shrugs in the darkness.
Yeah, I know.
It's only temporary, guys. You know that. After we win this war, there will be plenty of time for pussy.
The man and woman just chuckle. They walk in silence for a moment. Jameson considers the woman's statement.
This war, this is how they see themselves. Fighting a war, winning a war. A war against who? Animal abusers? Royalty? The Chinese?
Here we go.
The man says, shining his torch on a floor-to-ceiling chain-link fence. The fence completely blocks their path. They locate a heavily padlocked door within the fence. Jameson notices a "Danger, keep out" sign. The man produces a key and proceeds to unlock the padlock. He unravels the chain and swings the door open. They all pass through. He chains the door again and locks the padlock. They move on. After a while, they reach a similar fence. After passing through and carrying on, they encounter a third fence. They carry on until gradually light begins to fill the tunnel. The low-end rumble of generators can be heard. Now the sound of people, chattering, activity.
Media? Computers?
They reach two metal bins with logs inside, blazing a fire and producing a welcome heat. However, the ripped guard with the mullet-style hairdo, clutching a shotgun, who looks like he belongs in a wrestling ring from the 1980s, doesn't look so welcoming. But he recognises the man and woman and lets them all pass, curiously nodding to Jameson. Jameson just half smiles, nods back, his eyes fixed on the shotgun, and walks by. They climb some stairs up onto a platform, and Jameson is impressed at what he sees. The concourse is lit up by a couple of well-positioned, powerful floodlights on stands. There is a large network of computers and monitors on stainless steel workstations. People, maybe 20, everywhere, moving here and there with purpose and fluency. And standing in the centre of the platform, overseeing it all, is a rugged-looking man in his early 50s, tall and thin, with greasy, long, lank hair. He is dressed elaborately in red and black pinstripe pants and a white vest, with an unbuttoned Hawaiian shirt with a smoking machine gun-toting shark motif. Jameson watches him quietly, muttering to himself as they approach. His jerky body movements, almost like a bird, seem involuntary. Jameson guesses this man is either clearly lost and mental, or he clearly must be in charge. Possibly the serial killer himself. Assistant Director Black's voice echoes through Jameson's mind.
Find the bastard. Flush him out before he kills again.
Wait here.
Jameson pauses. The woman turns and slowly approaches the main man. He greets her fondly, resting an arm on her shoulder. Jameson can read a deep kindness in his eyes as he gazes at her. The dark-skinned man who accompanied Jameson on his journey remains quiet and skulks off down a sub-tunnel. Jameson stands alone for a moment as the woman explains the situation. A faint, familiar song begins from somewhere on the platform.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone.
Sings Jim Morrison. The main man and the woman look Jameson up and down.
Are they suspicious? Do they know?
He beckons Jameson over. Jameson approaches. There is a tense pause.
When you're strange, faces come out of the rain.
Jim explains.
Strange.
Bumblebee tuna?
The main man seems to ask.
Sorry?
Jameson says, shaking his head, trying to make sense of the words he'd just heard.
A code word?
The main man just huffs.
Never mind. Archer, huh? That's me. Welcome to Liberty Street Station. It's good to finally be here.
Jameson says, scanning the area.
Liberty Street Station. I like it. Did you make that up? No, it really was named that. Back when the subway was being constructed in the early 20th century. It was converted to a nuclear fallout shelter in the 1960s. We've cleaned it up a bit. It's home for now. Well, I like what you've done with the place. So, how long have you been with us? Short time.
The main man seems to stare into Jameson, studying his face.
Does he know?
Why am I having trouble recognizing you, Archer? Because we haven't met before? Yes. But I always carry out a background check on my recruits, which means studying detailed pictures of their faces. Yes.
The main man wiggles his finger at Jameson.
You seem different.
He knows.
Different?
Jameson says, keeping his cool.
You've had a haircut? No. Same hair. Shaved your beard? No, always clean shaven. Wearing makeup? What? No. Eye transplant? Eye transplant?
Jameson laughs, but the main man looks deadly serious. Jameson looks to the woman and then back to the main man. His laughter fades.
No. Facelift? No. Sex change? Of course not.
Jameson blurts, confused by the strange Q&A. The woman laughs and walks off.
Alrighty.
The main man says with a devilish grin.
You just look a little nervy. Edgy. Spooked. To tell you the truth, I am a bit nervous. Well, don't be.
The main man says, softly, suddenly looking sympathetic. He extends a hand.
Just take my hand.
Jameson distantly looks down at his own hand, automatically reaching out. The main man grabs it tight and yanks it towards his mouth and barks loudly like a vicious dog. Jameson jumps and pulls his hand free in shock. The main man just laughs hysterically.
That one never gets old,
he says, seemingly addressing himself.
although I have modified it a bit. Freestyle. Keep it spontaneous. Real. On my toes.
He realizes Jameson is watching him, bewildered. He quickly steps forward until he is touching noses with Jameson, whose eyes widen as he watches the main man's eyes dart back and forth.
You do have a sense of humor. Humor? Yes, of course. I can't abide a person with no sense of humor. No, me neither. Especially the ones who say humor is relative.
The main man's eyes narrow. Jameson looks down.
Hey, nice shirt.
He says, trying to smile.
Do you like it? Yeah, what is that? A shark with an AK-47?
Know your guns, do you? What are you? Some kind of weapons expert?
Well, Call of Duty, really.
The main man sighs, rapidly blinking his eyes and exhaling excessively into Jameson's face.
Yes, sharks. Another endangered species. 400 million years old, sharks. They've survived every extinction event on the planet. Now endangered by humans! Humans, having only been around for at most 200,000 years. And in just that short space of time, we've endangered not only sharks, but countless other species too. With hundreds becoming extinct in just the last few hundred years alone. My, aren't we a destructive force of nature? Now, doesn't that just make your heart feel like someone is repeatedly stabbing it with an ice pick? Doesn't that make you wish that when Indonesian fishing fleets sail out onto those Indian waters in search of fins, that sharks really do have AK-47s?
There is an awkward and tense moment of close proximity staring at each other.
When you're straight.
Jim sings, bringing the song to a close. Someone approaches from the right.
Sorry to interrupt,
It's the woman.
but we're into their mainframe. We have full control when we need it.
The main man continues to glare at Jameson.
Alrighty then.
He says, gruffly, with a twinkle in his wild eyes.
You and I are going on a special mission.
He says to Jameson.
Special mission?
The main man takes a step back.
Are you sure I'm ready for this?
Jameson asks, feeling everything moving too quickly.
Don't worry, I'll be watching you.
Jameson doesn't know whether to feel comforted or nervous about that statement.
Okay.
He nods.
What do you need me to do?
Go with Penny. She'll brief you on the mission. Your role.
Jameson gazes wistfully at the woman.
Penny. What a lovely name.
She smiles,
Follow me.
she says, and she makes for a computer station. Jameson follows Penny and nods at the main man, who watches him intently the entire time. They arrive at the workstation, and Penny begins to outline the mission.
The target is the headquarters of Procter & Gamble here in Cincinnati. Your mission is to sneak into the basement level of the building and cut a power cable that controls the electronic locking mechanism on every animal cage in their laboratory, setting the animals free and creating chaos.
Penny is fairly efficient on her laptop as she pulls up the building's blueprints and shows him his entry and exit points, an entrance at the rear of the building, and once inside, she shows him his route to the electrical service room.
What about the alarm system?
Our tech head has access to their mainframe. When you're in position, dial his number and he can disable the alarm system. He just can't unlock the cages from here.
I thought you said he had full control.
Everything but the cages.
And that's where I come in.
Exactly. It should be a swift and easy operation.
Penny nods to the main man.
He'll be going with you as your driver and backup should anything go wrong, but we don't foresee any problems. We'll supply you with a mobile phone and insulated wire cutters.
When do we leave?
Tomorrow.
Jameson blurts, but then lowers his voice so the main man cannot hear him.
Tomorrow? Isn't that a little, soon?
We've been planning this for weeks. Studying schematics, learning personnel rotas and routines, breaking into their mainframe. Timing is crucial. It has to be tomorrow.
Jameson tries and fails to swallow a lump in his throat.
I understand.
You'll leave at 2000 hours, reach at 2100. I suggest you get some food and some sleep.
Penny says, her hand gesturing to a subtunnel.
The three of us can fine-tune the mission in the morning, and you can get better acquainted.
She motions her head to the main man, who is still blatantly watching him. Jameson nervously smiles at him, but he does not return a smile.
I'm looking forward to it.
Jameson mumbles, unconvincingly.
I'm sorry you haven't been introduced until today, but you've only been with us for a short time, and we have a strict screening protocol around here.
She smiles, but there is something behind her glistening eyes that leaves Jameson curious.
That's fine. I understand.
Penny just gazes at him for a moment, smiling. until he feels a little uncomfortable. He decides to try his luck.
Penny, I wanted to ask you about his name.
His name?
I was just wondering how he came to be called what he is.
Well,
She smiles.
perhaps that's a story he can tell you himself.
Jameson is disappointed, but hides it well. He nods.
Of course. Maybe tomorrow morning.
Now Penny nods.
Anyway, you'll find something tasty in the canteen if you're peckish.
Great. I am hungry. Would you care to join me?
Penny smiles.
Another time. I still have duties to attend to.
Okay. Well, good night. See you in the morning.
Good night, Archer.
Penny nods. Jameson makes his way to the sub-tunnel and steps inside. The tunnel is dimly lit, with candles lined along the edges of the walls, but lit nonetheless. He carefully treads through the tunnel until he reaches a cross-section. He can smell something wonderful coming from the path to the right. He takes that path and eventually finds a large, arched room. It is being used as a makeshift dining room. There are gas stoves heating giant pots of something deliciously aromatic bubbling away, and several fold-out tables, each with 4 folding stools. Jameson is surprised to find a young male, in his early teens, stirring a pot of stew-like substance. 3 other people sit at tables, eating, 2 at one table chatting, and 1 at another eating alone. Jameson walks over to a table with crockery and cutlery on it. He lifts a fork and a bowl and approaches the person stirring the pot.
What's on the menu tonight?
He asks. The young man looks up and removes a set of earphones and lets them hang around his neck. He is handsome, in a deathly pale, gawky teenage fashion. One piercing dark brown eye peers at Jameson. The other is hidden behind a curtain of tawny-coloured hair. His apron with a print of a woman's body dressed in erotic underwear shows a humorous side to his character, but he seems nervous, sensitive.
You've got chickpea and sweet potato curry,
He says, nodding to the other pot.
or 3 bean and mushroom chili in here.
Chickpea and potato, huh? What? No lamb?
Jameson asks, looking around for another pot. The teen looks at him in disgust and with contempt. Jameson realises his parapraxis.
Bad joke.
He says, smiling goofily, trying to recover. The young man takes a moment to suss Jameson out.
Ah, a joke.
He says, stone-faced. He wheezes out a laugh, but seems to be laughing at the suggestion of a joke.
They say us vegans don't have a sense of humor. I think I'll have the chili.
The teen scoops 2 ladles of chili into Jameson's bowl and hands him a couple of warm pita breads.
Hey, that sounds kind of heavy.
Jameson says, referring to the boy's choice in music.
You ever listen to, Cannibal Corpse?
The teen shrugs. He shakes his head.
No? Paranoid Monkeys?
Now the teen just looks embarrassed.
No? The Drop D Hellwalkers?
The teen doesn't answer. He just looks down at his pots.
Not heard. No. Anywho,
Jameson smiles and raises his bowl.
thanks for the,
He takes a seat at an empty table. He doesn't have much hope for the chili, but he is now hungry and would be grateful for something in his belly. He spoons some food and takes a mouthful.
Wow.
He says uncontrollably.
The flavors. That cumin, coriander, and smoked paprika base. Tomato, carrot, celery, nicely cooked. Creamy melt-in-your-mouth beans. Kidney, black eye, and another I can't recognize. Nice chunky chestnut mushrooms. Full of juicy flavor. Oh, and now the heat from the chilies creeps up. And a slight bitter sweetness from dark chocolate.
This was no ordinary slop. No gruel for the minions. Jameson breaks some bread and scoops some more chili up and into his mouth. He says aloud. He turns to the pot stirrer.
Did you make this?
The teen just smiles, slightly embarrassed.
It's beautiful.
The teen nods, now looking proud. Jameson turns back around and devours his meal. The teen arrives at the table and sets down another bowl. It is the curry.
Try this one.
I reckon I could manage another 1 or 2 forkfuls.
Jameson smiles, enjoying the new aromas rising up from the bowl and stimulating his olfactory bulb. He forks some curry into his mouth. The flavours are intense. The chickpeas and sweet potato are cooked perfectly and seasoned with cumin and garam masala, ginger and turmeric, coconut cream and fresh coriander. This time, the heat kicks the door in. It is a fiery one.
Wow. It's lovely. A few chilies in there, huh?
It's cayenne pepper, actually. Maybe a bit too much?
No. The heat is welcome.
The teen beams a smile that makes Jameson think of his wife.
You know, my wife would love this curry.
He smiles, forking more curry into his mouth. The teen's smile widens, his eyes glistening.
Who taught you how to cook?
My mother.
The teen says, and although still smiling, a tear streaks down his cheek. Jameson can see a deep melancholy in the teen's eyes. He decides not to press him about it.
Well, you enjoy your meal.
The teen nods and returns to his pots. Jameson ponders over the teen's obvious turmoil as he finishes the remains of his curry.
I need to keep an eye on him.
After thanking the young cook again, he leaves down the same tunnel and comes to the cross-section again. He walks straight on, taking the left path, which leads him to another large arched room, a sleeping area. There are several camping beds in rows with sleeping bags rolled out on top of each bed. Some are occupied with people who have already turned in. Jameson finds an empty bed and sits down. A wave of fatigue washes over him. It's been a long day. The journey and the tension has worn him out. He removes his shoes and coat and climbs into the sleeping bag. He lies back and sighs. The food in his belly and the warmth of the sleeping bag soon has his eyelids fluttering. He tries to think of his predicament and the mission that he faces tomorrow.
What use is setting animals loose in a lab? Is it some kind of test? Initiation? Who are these people? Do they know who I really am? Am I in danger? Is the main man the killer? Why does he act so strangely? And how can I get my hands on that chili recipe?
He needs answers for his torrent of questions. But as another wave of fatigue closes his eyes, he realizes that they will have to wait for the morning. His mind fades to black, and he soon drifts off to sleep.